Hi there, welcome to another painting tutorial. So in this tutorial we have a fall pumpkin with some flowers and foliage. So let's get started. And let's start with a size 6 round brush. I have my primary palette here, and then I have some other fun orange colors that I want to add. And let's start with a darker tone for the pumpkin. I have this terracotta shade. And let's see if we can put this in kind of the darker lines and shadows of the pumpkin. And this round brush has a nice fine point, and that's good for making lines. Okay, so just kind of follow your sketch and go over these lines that you drew. And this terracotta paint, it's just an acrylic craft paint that I found at the craft store. So you don't have to use anything expensive. You can use what you have. Just having fun. Doesn't have to be professional. Okay, and then kind of do another layer around those lines to make them a little bit thicker. Just like I'm doing here, kind of going along those edges. That's just adding a little bit of shading and shadow, and it's going to make the pumpkin look more three-dimensional. You can add water if you need to, just to get the paint flowing a little bit better. And let's move on to the stem of the pumpkin. So I want kind of a grayish shade, so we'll take a little bit of Payne's gray with a little bit of titanium white, and then just pop that in for the stem. It's kind of an underpainting or a base coat for that stem. Okay, and then let's look at the darker parts of the flower as well. So I'm going to take this terracotta color for the rose, and I'm looking at the reference photo. I'll try to put it on Pinterest. I'm just kind of putting in some of those spots that are darkest on that flower. Roses are pretty tricky to paint. It's something that just kind of takes some practice. But I'm just putting the lines, and I'm not going to try to make this rose look too realistic. Okay, you kind of see the idea there. Okay, let's switch brushes. So let's switch to a size 9 filbert, and let's pick up a orange color that's like a mid-tone. So I have some of this orangey red. I'm going to mix it with a little bit of this neon orange that I have, and see if that can give us like a nice medium orange tone. Okay. And then let's fill in the other kind of sections that we left white with this color. It's a nice bright, vibrant orange. And you can try to do fewer strokes if you'd like, kind of pushing down and then lifting up. Just make sure you have enough paint on your brush. And yeah, using fewer strokes, that's going to give you a little bit more of a painterly look, and might even give you some cleaner strokes as well, so it's not as messy. Okay, so that looks good for a base for that orange pumpkin. And then what I could do is let's maybe mix these colors together. So we'll mix that terracotta with a little bit of this bright neon orange, and then just see if that gives us a little bit of an in-between shade that can kind of blend those two colors together. So it's looking a little bit streaky. Okay, so I like the way that looks. And you could even do like a glaze here. So if I take some yellow with a little bit of this neon orange and then kind of put it over the pumpkin, that's going to give us a nice glaze here. You can see how that gives us kind of a glowing effect. And then it's covering up some of that white that we have on the paper. And it's just kind of bringing those two colors together in a nice way. Okay, so I like the way that pumpkin looks. I could do a highlight. So I could take a little bit of titanium white and mix it with one of these lemon yellows. And just kind of look at the reference photo and see where those highlights are. Just kind of pop those in. And that's just going to make it look three-dimensional. Okay, and then sticking with this size 9 filbert, I want to do some of these aspen leaves. And let's use this yellow ochre to do that. Yellow ochre is a nice, beautiful, muted shade of yellow. So I want to try to do this with kind of conservative brush strokes, not too many. So I'm just kind of pressing down to get that filbert to kind of give me that round edge that I would like. You can kind of twirl the brush around as well and get some nice shapes. Okay, and then let's look back to the rose. And we can use some of this yellow ochre around that rose. Let's just pop some of it in along where we didn't have the orange spots. That's just kind of building color of the flower. Okay, and then I might let that dry and then add some lighter tones to it. Can be kind of impressionistic. It doesn't have to be super realistic like we said. Okay, and then this other area, I want to do a nice rich red shade. And I want to use, so let's try this size 3 flat brush. So it's a really small flat brush. And to mix up this color, we could do a magenta, maybe with a little bit of burnt sienna. Maybe a little bit more of a reddish color with this orange red shade. And then I'm going to add a little bit of this to it to kind of cool it down. So it's just like a brown shade that we already had on the palette. Okay, and maybe a little bit of ultramarine, and that can cool it down as well. Okay, so I think that's a good color that we're looking for. And let's just try to use a tip of this brush to give us the entire leaf shape. Just like that. And I love when you can use the brush to give you the shape that you're looking for, because it just makes things a lot easier because you're making an entire petal with just one brush stroke. And I can make some a little bit thinner by just putting a light pressure and using kind of the side of the brush. And then I can make some thicker by using the flat of the brush and pushing down a little bit more. Okay, that's just a nice berry shade of foliage. All right, and next let's take a script liner brush. This is a size 1. And I want to roll it in this yellow ochre paint and see if we can kind of connect the lines here for this aspen plant. And I Again, I love these brushes because they give you really nice fine lines. Okay. So I want this flower, the rose, to be a little bit lighter in certain areas. Let's just add kind of a highlight. So we'll do some yellow with a little bit of that yellow ochre with the white. And then see if that makes kind of a lighter shade to do kind of a highlight. Maybe add a little bit more white. And we'll just add that on the aspen leaves just to give it a little bit of dimension. Okay, and then for this rose, let's put a lighter value along some of these petals. It's just going to give you another layer to the rose, bring out some highlights. And then I could kind of go back with some darker values again. So we could do a little bit of this yellow ochre with the terracotta. Just go back and kind of define that rose shape a little bit better. Could even take some brown, some burnt sienna, and kind of push those values a little bit darker. And then I would maybe do another layer of red for these red foliage pieces. Just take another color of red and go back over those. I could add something quite a bit darker, maybe some brown at the bottom, just to give it a little bit of shadow and variety. Okay, so that looks good. And then let's make this, could just take, I made this Vandyke Brown and then add a little bit of dark texture to the stem. Just go over that with the second layer. Just kind of make some odd shapes there, kind of random, to make it look natural. Okay, so now that things have dried a little bit, let's try to add a little bit more of a highlight. So we'll take some lemon yellow, with a little bit of the titanium white, and then let's just try to pop that on the pumpkin in those highlighted areas. Okay, that's just like a final highlight. And if you wanted to, you could take a little bit of this terracotta color and you could do another layer of that, kind of blend it in and just make another layer so that you have things just a little bit cleaner and smoother. And just sometimes if you just do one layer, it looks kind of watery, so you might need to do more than one layer just to get your values to also show up a little better. Because the more contrast you have in your painting, usually the more realistic it looks. Okay, and we'll call that complete. You can go ahead and add more detail to it if you'd like, or do a variation of colors. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.